G'day ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is Duckville here with the Protoss vs Zerg on Akalon Waste. It's going to be a really interesting game. We've got our Protoss player up towards the top left hand side, currently playing for Team SCA. It is Lucky. We've seen him before in a couple of games. He's a pretty decent Protoss player, throws out some really interesting builds from time to time. In fact, one of the recent games that I uploaded of our player here, he actually utilized a really interesting, he had to deal with an interesting strategy of mech, and it was a little bit of a fun game there. But his opponent today is going to be our Zerg down at the bottom right hand side, as our blue Zerg player currently playing for Team Root Gaming after securing a spot quite a while ago, and then doing quite well through the end of 2012, and still doing quite a wonderful job with his very interesting and sometimes, you know, very odd sort of strategies. It is Root Gaming's FitzyHere, aka Fitzy. He's, you know, I could totally tell after watching, you know, I've watched a few of Fitzy's games on stream and some of his replays and that kind of thing, and as I said, sort of secured a spot after a best of 21 or whatever it was with Puck. Like actually lost to Puck, but then still got a spot on the team, and I can see why. Fitzy loves to do some sort of crazy strategies from time to time, like not necessarily you know, like Cat's level craziness, but it's very close to it. Like they would definitely be sharing a room at the StarCraft Insane Asylum if there ever was one. But you know, utilizing queens quite a lot, loves to produce his queens en masse, loves to also have you know, sort of some of the odd sort of units out, like utilizing the swarm hosts and spine crawlers sort of stuff that we see quite a lot. Not necessarily an odd sort of build these days, but quite a while ago you wouldn't really see it too much. All you'd see was people trying to somehow defend against Sky Toss, and until people such as Fitzy and Cats sort of come along and start using a lot of swarm hosts and a lot of static defense. But Lucky going to open us up today with a Nexus First Forge Fast expansion, or I suppose Nexus Forge expansion, and so he's going to play just a standard sort of macro game. One thing which we did see here from Fitzy is that instead of his drone sort of moving out and sort of taking a path where it went down this way and then across to plant the natural, he saw that the probe was following him and actually sort of sent it out in that direction, which is your normal sort of scouting path. So Lucky actually did not scout that the base had gone down there at the third for quite a little while there, and now in fact Fitzy says, well, you know what, I'm going to take the natural as well. And as his spawning pool finishes up, we've got an extractor that's also just pulling in quite a lot of gas. In fact, he's gone above the 100, and wow, there you go. Alright, so it's going to be a Roach Warren here. We may see some sort of Roach Ling bus come out of Fitzy, but in fact, no, it's going to be Burrow. Alright, so we'll probably get, I would say it's just going to be a small amount of roaches. Won't necessarily be anything more than sort of maybe 5 to 6, just sort of, we've got to read how much gas he brings in here, but sort of 5 to 6, they're going to have burrow, and this makes it really interesting, because while yes, you're not going to burrow and sort of sit at the front door in this sort of position and say, haha, you can't shoot me because the cannon will have detection, he can come in here. He can perhaps utilize some of the terrain here to stay out of range of the cannon while shooting down some of these buildings. He might get this pylon, might get the forge in fact, and then he can burrow the units, regen some of the health, and then pop up and down. Like if you've ever played StarCraft, what's it called, StarCraft 2 Master, I think is that custom map where it works on your micro and all sorts of very intricate little things. There is a map in that where you have to, a level in that, sorry, where you have to beat like a bunker full of marines with like, what is it, 3 roaches or something like that, utilizing burrow techniques and things like that. So I think that's what we're going to see, and in fact it definitely is out of Fitzy here today. We've got the 3 hatcheries just producing a small amount of roaches, just 6 at the moment have popped out, so it's not going to be anything too huge. I doubt we'll see any more from him, and in fact he has taken some of the drones off the gas inside the main, so we will see him just transition back out into a normal sort of macro phase of the game, where he's going to be powering up his drone count as quickly as he can, bringing in a lot of minerals, and just getting himself all ready to go for that mid-game sort of stage where Zerg actually really starts to gain a lot of power. So Lucky, He's got roaches at the front door. What is he going to do about this? One of the roaches heads back a bit, says, I don't want that cannon in my face. Takes down one of the zealots, and this is a really weird wall here from Lucky. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but is going to throw down a couple of cannons. Very scared about the possibility of a roach bust coming along, and it looks like, well, Fitzy is going to try and target down that the forge there. It looks like the pylon across to the side is also going to go down. You can see this regen. Look at this. Mothership is barely damage, like slowly getting ahead on the damage on some of these roaches, but as soon as they burrow, there's no real way for Lucky to actually get good damage done. Like this roach is actually just on the range of detection there, and burrows and will survive. And the roaches look like they have done a little bit of damage. I would like to see him perhaps grab that pylon as well, but I mean, with 3 cannons now up and running, the Mothership Core will have a time warp available as well, so I doubt he's going to push too much with this particular attack. But he did get a forge, not too bad, and Lucky's going to replace that with a gateway robo going up inside the main. So we'll see how Lucky tries to sort of maneuver himself from this particular position. It's sort of a really odd sort of situation to be in, where your forge is being destroyed. We've now got double gateways being built here at the natural, and the roaches will go to work on the rocks. So Fitzy looking to get as much damage as he can, just due to the fact that, well, we've invested in 6 roaches, we better get something done with them. And I mean, getting a forge is quite nice. As I said, getting in the pylon would have been perhaps a little bit better for him as well. But behind all of this, he's been able to drone up. We've now got Fitzy up to 47 drones. He's even with his opponent here. In fact, he's going to go slightly ahead right now, and he's also building up on the queens. So Fitzy is just sticking with his standard sort of a little bit wacky sort of play here, playing a little bit of whack-a-mole with these roaches, and he's going to continuously burrow them while there is no detection, and Lucky has no way to see them at all. He does have a robo, which is now done, but that's going to get an immortal out first, so I think we are going to see an attempted, just a 2-base bust from Lucky here. He has thrown down a few more gateways inside the main, so we will have a total of 7 gates coming out of the Protoss player right now. He does have a couple of extra gas down at the natural as well, so there is a possibility that he is going to have a very, very powerful force right now, and we can see he's going to build up the sentry count for a little bit, and then start to look towards pushing across the map. Once he's got maybe 2 immortals out, I don't think you'd want to wait for 3. We'll see. Like, he is, we'll see if he builds another one. I doubt he'll wait for it, just because of the fact that the gateway's already done. We've got, we don't have any upgrades coming along, keep in mind, so there's going to be no +1 weapons. But here we go. So he is going to start to push out right now. We've got a few more sentries, and Stalker's building up back at home. Lucky getting himself a little bit blocked in there. I think that's just partly because of the way that he's walled this off. This isn't like the normal sort of positioning for a wall. Normally you'd sort of see the gateway a little bit further down, I believe, and then the cyber goes around about there. So a slight misposition on the wall, but, you know, that's nothing to worry about really at this point. So Fitzy knows what is coming along. There is a pylon weirdly placed out here at the front for him, and it looks like that roach is going to go down, but he will see that there is an attack coming. Meanwhile, inside the main base of Lucky, we've got an extra warp prism now coming along. It is going to be a total of 2 immortals, along with all those sentries, all those stalkers. It is going to be very difficult for Fitzy to defend against this, but I'll tell you one thing that he does have. That's a lot of queens now down here at the natural. We've got 5 queens prepared to go. 5 swarm hosts have now just popped out as well. This is a pretty good defense. I mean, there's definitely no way that Lucky is going to be able to push in through this base here, just because of the simple fact Swarm hosts do a huge amount of damage with all those locusts. He's now got 7 of them out, and it looks like his natural should certainly be safe, but the 3rd base is definitely going to be up for grabs right here. Force fields in one of the queens and blasts her down as quickly as you like, and it looks like Lucky is going to get his own damage done here with a few blasts of those immortals on that hatchery, and that's going to go down. Force field walls off those units, and we'll probably see a recall out. He's going to take that hatchery, take a couple of the drones that were here as well, and say, peace, I am out of here. Gets the extractor, and now we'll see him probably recall back. Well, maybe he's going to try. I don't know. If he tries to bust this, I'll be very, very surprised. Oh, wow, he just actually shot down his own stalker. You are a traitor, sir, he says, and it gets rid of that stalker. But, I mean, there's no real way to get through this. I really don't want to see Lucky try and bust this, because there is just about no way that that's going to work. There's too many spines, too many swarm hosts now. We've got a total of, what's that, like 13 swarm hosts are out right now. It's a huge total to deal with. We've even got an ultra cavern being built right now for Fitzy. So he's just said, alright, to hell with all of this, building up all my hive tech and gonna get ready to rumble, because, you know, he's got, with the swarm host, he can buy as much time as he needs. Unless Lucky is able to get a couple of Colossi out, there is no way that a Protoss player is ever going to be able to push through this amount of swarm hosts, especially now that we're up to a total of 13 with all those spine crawlers there as well. So Lucky going to sit patiently for the moment. Looks like he is going to go build his third Nexus down at the third base here. We've got a couple of Stalkers randomly out in the middle of the map. Not sure what they're up to, but Fitzy has been able to force this attack back, and we'll see him secure his third base and try and restart the economy. So let's have a look at the workers here for these two players. We've got 64 probes right now for Lucky. He's in a very strong position at this point. We can see the first Colossus has made its way out. Extended Thermal Lance is also being researched right now. And is he going to take a fourth as well? Wait, is that pylon... I think that pylon, yeah, that pylon blocks the Nexus. I don't know why he put that there, but he's got that there just in case, perhaps to spot if any units try and come through. But as we said, the main factor here is that our Protoss player is on quite a decent economy, 64 probes. Third base is just about to get up and running, but we've got to see if he's going to be able to deal with the swarm hosts and locusts that are popping out slowly but surely for our Zerg player from Root Gaming. He's now got the third hatchery up and running. Extra gas now coming through for Fitzy as well. Would love to see him perhaps try and secure a fourth at this time as well, because he does have a lot of sort of time to invest in getting a good economy up because of these swarm hosts. This is what they are really good for, is not only defending against pushes and all that kind of stuff, but also for buying you some time to get yourself back into a solid position. As any Zerg player would know, you need a lot of gas to get those hive units out, and if you don't have a good economy behind your sort of early to mid-game play, then you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle to continually bring out more of these swarm hosts if that's what your plan is. You're going to have trouble getting these Vipers out, which are, of course, a wonderful addition to the late-game Zerg arsenal. And, you know, in Fitzy's case, he wants to have a lot of Queens out as well. We can see 9 Queens are out here in the main sort of attack force that he's going to put together. But will he be able to, you know, keep up the economy? And as we can see, he's got his 5th and 6th gases, but no extra minerals coming in here. He's really gone hard on getting out a lot of these units here. We've got 5 Ultras now popping out, 3 more Queens on the way, plus 3 to missile attacks being researched. Interestingly enough, no other upgrades being researched at this point. Carapace is still a while behind. Melee attacks is nowhere in sight at all. We don't even have level 1 of that. And these Ultras, well, they're going to be pretty tanky. They've got a lot of armor with their chitinous plating and their +2 on their carapace, but I mean, you know, what else have they got besides that? I just noticed that... Oh, okay, sorry. It's just the Ultras. I was looking at the upgrades tab and I'm thinking, why isn't ground carapace upgraded on here? Then I just realized he's just got the chitinous plating. My bad, guys. Anyway, this is a very symbolic version of the way that that Fitzy plays, and a beautiful little grab on that mothership core there. But in Wings of Liberty, he did the same sort of thing. Utilizes Ultralists, Broodlords, and a lot of Queens, and uses these Queens not only for anti-air and anti-ground, but also for their transfusers. If you can keep these units alive, the big boys on the ground in those Ultralists, if you can perhaps keep those Swarm Hosts alive longer with the transfusers, and it just sort of makes your army so much stronger. And that's why we can see he's got all of these Queens grouped together in this big pack of units. 10 Queens in total. We did see that some more were being built, but now he's going to switch into some Corruptors as well. More Vipers being added into the mix. And with the Vipers out, as long as they've got a good amount of energy, we may see some buffet buildings be built some way through the middle section of the map. But as long as he's got energy, he's going to have the ability to use Blinding Cloud on things like these cannons, like the Colossi, to keep them out of the battle for a second. And then also for Abducts, which are a very important part of fighting as a Swarm Host Zerg at this sort of stage of the game. You want these Locusts to pop out. You can see the Locusts just slowly make their way across, and then you utilize an Abduct to pull a Colossus into the Locust path, and then that means that you can snipe it down quick smart. And that is something which, of course, all the high-level Zerg players are really looking at doing at this stage of the game. as the meta for this particular type of play evolves. But as we can see, Blinding Cloud goes down on top of some of those cannons. They have no way to fire back at these Locusts for the moment, but a couple of decent force fields will hold back the Locusts for the time being, and it looks as if Fitzy is possibly getting ready for an attack here. I think he is. Yeah, he is. There he goes. All right. One Ultra at the front. This guy, very tanky, is getting all the transfuses there. Very lucky for him. Colossi abducted towards the back there, getting taken out by the Swarm host, the Ultras, and of course those Queens there as well. Don't neglect the Queen damage. Acid Spines, 12 damage versus air, and then, the Talons, 7 times 2 per shot, and that's a lot of damage. I mean, coming out of those Queens there, especially when there's about 10 of them. So Lucky is trying to secure his 4th base right now. Would love to see him throw down a couple of Stargates, but at the moment he's busy investing in the ground tech. But this is something which I've still sort of been, theorizing to myself about, sort of, just some ruminations by myself. But I would really like to see, if Protoss players know that there are a lot of Swarm hosts out, this is a very immobile sort of style. We can see that all Fitzy has done at this point, he's moved up, and then he's moved back. It's just sort of been like a very sort of slow, progressive sort of attack style where you're sort of maneuvering your units about very much like you're playing mech. And, as we always say, if you're a Protoss, if you're a Zerg, how do you abuse mech? You try and take down try and take advantage of the fact that mech is very immobile. And now, as we can see, Fitzy moving about with his Swarm host, launches some of these, launches some of the Locusts. You can think of this like sieging up some of the tanks or anything like that. Launches some of those into battle, and then, he maneuvers the Swarm hosts around. This is what you really want to do as a Zerg. But as I was saying, Warp Prisms. I would like to see Zerg, Protoss players utilize Warp Prisms with 2 Immortals in them, perhaps drop off some DTs and Zealots as well. Just try and snipe off hatcheries. It could be a way to try and take advantage of this kind of style here, but speaking of style, we've got Fitzy roaming his way across the map here. We've got a couple of Corruptors at the back here, just to add in a little bit of extra DPS against those Colossi that are there. But, wow, Lucky, SCA Lucky has now built up a really powerful force at this point. His upgrade's not exactly fantastic at this point, but he does have Storm. He's got a couple of Immortals. We've got a few Archons at the front as well. Blinding Cloud does go down, and it looks as if Fitzy is going to have a little bit of trouble in this fight, but I mean, he's got the Queens for transfuse, and eventually he's able to take down a lot of those high-powered units. The Colossi going down, leaving only one for the moment, and in fact that one has been brought to its knees. And Fitzy, very successful with that attack. All of his Queens still pretty much alive at this point. Some of them in the deep red. They are going to need a band-aid or 2, but he's been able to keep most of the Queens alive. He can remax on some of these his own high-powered units, such as those Ultras. And as we can see, his economy is still not exactly perfect at this point. I'm a little bit surprised. He's sort of stuck around that 50 sort of mark, where a lot of Zerg players, you get into a very aggressive mode, and you sort of think, well, I got to keep attacking. I got to rebuild my forces. I've got to get out more Ultralists. I've got to get those upgrades going. Oh yeah, my economy is currently sitting at 53 drones. It's not exactly where you want to be at this point, but one thing which he has done is he has kept on top of his injects as well, and that's really nice to see from a high-level player here. Look at these Queens. They've got basically no energy just because he's been on top of that consistently. So he is continually bringing out more units. We can see that we've got even some mutas are being built right now, a small flock of mutas, 8 of them are on the way, and the Locusts are going to try and come through, attack the front door here, but the Swarm hosts have repositioned themselves. He's going to launch those into that 4th base of Lucky, and we'll see how much damage he can get done there. That is a lot of Locusts. Keep in mind these guys have got 0-3 on their upgrades, so they do a lot of damage themselves. Here he goes, slowly moving forward. A little bit of stutter step there from the Locust. Will be able to get it in time. Yes, he does. The Locusts say, I am out of here, bro. And Fitzy doing a good job, just delaying his opponent, but Lucky is starting to get very strong at this point here. The Archons, very, very powerful units, but their upgrades are just so far behind. Of course, we did see the Forge go down right at the start of the game, which means that upgrades are going to be a little bit slower for the Protoss, but at this point, if you're lucky, this should be continually spinning. The second Forge, which should be somewhere, in fact, we don't have one, should be continually spinning. He needs to get these upgrades out. Fitzy is not going to just march his way up. He's not going to just come up here, plant the swarm host and say, all right, I'm coming through. He's going to slowly just bide his time, get his economy going with these extra gases and these kinds of things while he slowly delays Lucky's economy. And this gives you time to get those upgrades out. And this is why I'm very surprised that Lucky is just so far behind with his upgrades at this point. We do see some extra gateways being built inside the main base. His robos are finally stuck for the moment. He's stopped churning away with his units at this point, but he is now attacking through. But back at home, he is losing a few of these pylons here, depowering some of those warp gates, and it looks as if Fitzy, is he going to be able to get this last one? Yes, he does, and that is a huge Artosis pylon there, depowering quite a lot of those gates, and that means that Lucky cannot necessarily get the reinforcements back in time that he would like to. So we'll see how he maneuvers from this point forwards. It looks like the Immortals and Stalkers trying to bust through this wall of spines down here, but there are so many Queens, so many Transfusers. We've got Vipers at the back for some Abducts and Blinding Clouds if need be. And while all this is going on, Swarm Host continually pressuring the economy of Lucky. He has been unable to secure a 4th base now. Did get this 5th down towards the side, but that is not long for this world. And it looks like Fitzy is trying to get these Swarm Hosts out of here. He does have another salvo of Locusts to launch. It looks like he's going to try and launch them at the impending doom of Stalkers, Archons, Immortals, and Templar that are coming towards him. And he may try and maneuver out of this position right now. I'm interested to see if he's going to... Alright, he's going to force the units around and then slowly make his way around at this point here. It looks like the Locusts are about to wear out. We can see a few feedbacks going down on some of those Queens. They do get torn apart, some Transfusers to help save them. But it looks like, well, Fitzy is going to have to maneuver past some Zealots here. He's trying to whisper and tiptoe past them, but I don't think he's going to get too far. Some of the Swarm Hosts will go down, and that's going to reduce the count of Swarm Hosts for Fitzy down to possibly 10, maybe 8 or 9. We'll see it go down to 8, so not too bad for Fitzy at this point. He may actually want to try and sort of move into a different sort of style, but he says, no, Duckville, you silly fool. We're going to build 11 more Swarm Hosts here. He's going to continue on with this sort of roundabout pressure where he's just coming around the map, coming down to various sides of the map, taking out the bases of his opponent, and just continuously harassing here. These mutas are a little bit unfortunate, getting a pimp fist in the face from the Archons of Lucky. Lucky's upgrade still at 102 at this point. His economy starting to struggle. Low amounts of gas, low amounts of minerals here, and his probe count has been reduced to just a 47 with only this 3rd base mining here. So Fitzy has been continually harassing. It's mostly economic harassment here. We can see that the main engagements with the forces of Lucky have been very minimal. We've seen maybe 2, maybe 3 big fights I could think of that, you know, Fitzy has actually actively walked into. And what he has been doing is just continuous harassment of the economy. 4th base, we'll see how this goes. I would like to... Lucky, I mean, can really drop down those rocks and keep that base a little bit safer, but for how long? That is the big question here. And one thing which I'm still very, very perplexed about is the fact that we haven't seen a single Stargate unit come out of our Protoss here. And Lucky starting to push forwards. It looks like he wants to make another big push on Fitzy's position here, but there are so many Swarm Hosts, so many Spine Crawlers, and it looks as if our Zerg player is really putting himself in a solid position right here. His economy is still also very low, very sort of low econ based pressure coming out of Fitzy is still at 44 drones. It's not exactly a large amount, boys and girls, when it's a 31-minute mark, but he's been keeping his opponent at a similar sort of rate right now. We can see that some extra tech has gone down from Lucky. He did lose his Templar Archives inside the main base. We can see a second forge, but unfortunately it is not spinning up. There is just not enough for him to get the economy going here. And it looks like the Stalker's finally going to engage. We'll probably see a couple of Blinding Clouds at the back there. They are just really nullifying the damage coming out of Lucky at this point, but some Storms will go down. Very nicely done. Broodlords coming in from the back. Will they be able to get enough damage done here? It looks like they will, but the Blink Stalkers coming through, saying, hello, Mr. Broodlord, taking them down as quickly as you like. And it looks like, well, Fitzy will hold for the moment, but did suffer quite a few losses here. But this is the big story of the game. While the battles are going on across the map, Fitzy has just been continuously denying his opponent proper mining, proper efficient mining of all these minerals here. And as we can see, the gas count is really starting to deplete now for the Protoss. So Lucky is probably on his last legs right now. This last force is going to be the really, probably the final sort of stroke that he's going to have to play here. If he wants to move out, he will have to have an amazing battle to win this, but I don't see it happening. There are just too many Swarm Hosts. We've got 16 Swarm Hosts out on the field. there are over, how many? We've got 19 spine crawlers have been built. All of that stuff there to defend. And Fitzy can just take his time for now. He doesn't need to do anything. He could probably just sit back, maybe slowly move some of these swarm hosts across the map, send in some locusts if he likes, and maybe get some damage done. But at this point, he's done such a great amount of damage, denying Lucky from getting to a really sort of a powerful point, which you would normally see a Protoss at, that it really doesn't matter at this point. So we see Locust catching up with some of the gateway units. They're madly trying to run up the ramp here. Blinkstalkers trying to get out as quickly as they can, but I mean, look at this. We've got more creep now pushing across the map from all of those 70 billion queens that Fitzy has out on the map. It's probably not 70 billion. It's something more like 12, but I mean, it's close enough. And Lucky, I don't know what's going on here, but he's dropping off some immortals, and there you go. So many options in HOTS, he says, and there's a GG. So Lucky really struggling there to get his economy up to scratch, and his upgrades sort of fell behind as well after losing that early forge. And I mean, when you get stuck into a position where a Zerg player is slowly expanding, slowly getting his economy online, and you're also being very slow about things, it sort of gets you stuck in this position where swarm hosts can just waddle their way around the map and continuously harass you. And that's the trap, unfortunately, that Lucky fell into. So Fitzy takes down Lucky here in this PvZ on Akalon Waves. Please feel free to subscribe and say hello on Twitter and Facebook and Twitch and all those cool things. I'll see you all next time. If you've got some Hellbats at the front, there's actually not too much that you're going to be able to do against that. It'd be a slow push inside that third base. So this position, at least, there's a little bit more space. Of course, there is a very similar sort of attack path from the south here.